He fired 14 nannies in 10 months. Every single one left in tears. Then the 15th nanny arrived, looked him dead in the eye, and said 7 words that shattered him. Your son thinks you're going to disappear. What happened next will break your heart and put it back together again. Welcome to the story room. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me tell you about a man who had everything money could buy, but had lost the one thing that mattered most. In the wealthy hills of Sydney, Australia, there stood a mansion that looked like paradise from the outside. Floor-to-ceiling windows. An infinity pool overlooking the harbor. Marble floors that echoed with emptiness. Inside lived a man named David Richardson. He was 38 years old and owned one of the largest construction companies in Australia. His firm built skyscrapers, shopping centers, entire neighborhoods. He was worth $47 million. He could buy anything he wanted, except peace, except his wife back. 10 months ago, David's world shattered. His wife, Claire, died in a boating accident off the coast. One moment, she was laughing in the sunshine. The next moment, she was gone. Just like that. No warning. No goodbye. No chance to say, I love you one last time. And she left behind their son, little Oliver, just 3.5 years old, with his mother's green eyes and his father's dark hair. A tiny boy who still asked where mommy went, why she didn't come home, when she'd be back to read him stories. David didn't know how to answer those questions. So he stopped trying. He hired people to do it for him. Nannies, caregivers, professionals who were trained to handle grief and toddlers and all the messy emotions David couldn't face. In 10 months, he'd fired 14 of them. 14 women who came with warm smiles and gentle voices and promises to help. 14 women who left in tears, confused, hurt, wondering what they'd done wrong. The truth? Most of them hadn't done anything wrong. David just couldn't stand to see another woman in his home, where Claire used to be. Couldn't stand to hear another voice singing lullabies in the nursery, where Claire used to rock Oliver to sleep. Couldn't stand to watch his son laugh with a stranger when his mother would never hear that laugh again. So he found reasons. The nanny folded the towels wrong. She gave Oliver the blue cup instead of the red one. She laughed too loudly. She played music Claire used to play. She moved a picture frame on the mantel. Tiny infractions that became firing offenses in David's grief-twisted mind. And to make sure he caught every mistake, every violation of the perfect frozen memory of Claire, David installed cameras. Dozens of them. Hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames, in the corners of every room. He told himself it was for Oliver's safety. But really, it was so David could hide in his office and watch life happen on screens instead of living it himself. Oliver learned to be quiet in that house. Learned that people disappeared without warning. Learned that loving someone meant getting ready to lose them. At 3 years old, he'd already started building walls around his heart, just like his father. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, the 15th nanny arrived. Her name was Cara Mitchell. She was 31 years old, with kind brown eyes and hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore simple jeans and a sweater. No fancy credentials on display. No fake corporate smile. When David opened the door, his greeting was ice cold. If you're here to quit like the rest, just do it now, he said, his voice flat and hard. Don't make my son pay for it. Most of the other nannies had flinched at that tone. They'd stammered apologies or tried to reassure him with nervous laughter. Cara just looked at him. Really looked at him, like she could see past the expensive suit and the hostile stare to the broken man underneath. I'm not here to quit, Mr. Richardson, she said quietly. I'm here to help your son. And maybe, if you let me, to help you too. David's jaw tightened. I don't need help. I need someone who can follow simple instructions and not mess up my home. Your home is already messed up, Cara said, not cruel, just honest. Not because of the nannies. Because you're too afraid to live in it. The words hit David like a slap. He wanted to fire her right there, right at the doorway, before she even set foot inside. But then Oliver appeared at the top of the stairs. Small. Clutching a worn teddy bear that used to be Claire's. His eyes were too old for a 3-year-old, too cautious, too scared. "Daddy," Oliver whispered. "Is she leaving too?" And something in David's chest cracked just a little bit. "No, buddy," he heard himself say. "She's staying." For now, his mind added. Just for now. Kara didn't try to win Oliver over with toys or treats or forced enthusiasm. She just knelt down to his level that first day and said, "Hi, Oliver. My name is Kara. I'm here to spend time with you. We can do whatever you want, play, read, or just sit quietly. You're in charge, okay?" Oliver stared at her for a long moment. Then he whispered, "Can we read about dinosaurs?" "Absolutely," Kara said, and her smile was real. From his office down the hall, David watched it all on his monitors. He told himself he was being careful, protective, a good father doing his due diligence. But really, he was hiding. The screens showed him everything. Kara reading to Oliver on the living room couch. Kara making scrambled eggs in the kitchen while Oliver sat on the counter, swinging his legs. Kara kneeling in the garden, helping Oliver plant flowers. David watched for the cracks. The moments when her patience would run out. When she'd snap at Oliver for spilling juice or asking the same question 20 times. When she'd check her phone instead of listening. When she'd prove she was just like all the others, temporary, unreliable, leaving. But those moments never came. Instead, David saw something else. He saw his son laughing. Real laughter. The kind that shook his little shoulders and made his eyes crinkle up. He saw Oliver running to Kara in the morning with a picture he'd drawn. He saw his son eating vegetables without being asked because Kara had made a game out of it. He saw Oliver fall asleep on the couch with his head in Kara's lap while she read to him, and instead of waking him up or moving him, she just sat there, stroking his hair, letting him feel safe. And it made David's chest ache in a way he didn't understand. One afternoon, about 2 weeks in, David was reviewing the footage from that morning. Oliver had been building a tower out of blocks, and it kept falling down. Over and over. On the screen, Oliver's bottom lip started to tremble. His hands balled into fists. "I can't do it," he cried, his voice breaking. "It's too hard. I want Mommy. Mommy would help me." David's hand froze on the mouse. His throat went tight. On the screen, Kara didn't rush in to fix the blocks. She didn't tell Oliver to stop crying or that everything was okay. She just sat down beside him and said, "You miss her, don't you?" Oliver nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Me too," Kara said softly. "I lost someone I loved very much too. And sometimes when things get hard, I miss them so much it feels like my heart is breaking all over again." Oliver looked up at her. "Really?" "Really," Kara said. "It's okay to miss her, Oliver. It's okay to be sad. You don't have to be brave all the time." "Daddy's always brave," Oliver whispered. Kara's expression tightened for just a second. Then she said gently, "I think your daddy's heart is broken too. And when people's hearts are broken, sometimes they act hard on the outside because they're scared. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you more than anything in the world." David's eyes burned as he watched the screen. His hand covered his mouth. Oliver climbed into Kara's lap and sobbed. And she held him, not shushing him, not telling him to stop, just holding him steady while he fell apart. Before the story continues, subscribe. These stories are written to change lives. And in his dark office, David finally let himself cry too. David started coming out of his office more. At first, it was just for a few minutes. He'd walk past the living room and glance in. He'd pour himself coffee in the kitchen while Kara and Oliver made pancakes. He didn't join them. Not yet. He just existed in the same space. Close enough to hear Oliver's laughter, but far enough to protect himself from feeling it. One evening, David found them in the den. Oliver was building another block tower, and Kara sat nearby, reading a book just present. When David stepped into the doorway, Oliver froze. The blocks stopped midair. His eyes darted to his father, then back down, like looking too long might make David disappear. David's chest tightened. He'd done this. He'd taught his son to be afraid of him. "Hey, buddy," David said, his voice rough. Oliver didn't answer. David reached into his pocket out of habit, ready to offer something easy. You want to go to the toy store tomorrow? Get something new. Mr. Richardson, Kara said quietly, not looking up from her book. He doesn't need more toys. David bristled. I was just. He needs you, Kara said, finally meeting his eyes. Not your wallet. You.
The words stung like a slap.
I provide for him, David shot back, defensive. He has everything he could want. Kara's gaze shifted to the shelves lined with expensive toys, most still in their boxes. The train set that had never been opened. The art supplies that had never been touched. Everything except the one thing he's been asking for since his mother died, Kara said. You. Oliver's tower fell with a soft clatter. He flinched, shoulders hunching. Kara leaned in. It's okay, sweetheart. We can build it again. And then she looked at David. But you can't keep rebuilding his world with things, Mr. Richardson.
He needs your hands. Your time.
Your voice. David stood there, frozen, feeling like every carefully constructed wall he'd built was crumbling. Oliver's small hand reached for another block. Waiting. And for the first time in 10 months, David didn't retreat to his office. He lowered himself onto the rug beside his son and whispered, Show me how you're building it. Oliver's eyes went wide. Then, slowly, carefully, he handed his father a block. And together, they built. This story took me hours to write. If it touched you, please subscribe. Red Heart, more stories coming. Let continue. It happened 3 weeks after Kara arrived. David had just gone to bed when he heard it, a scream that cut through the house like a knife. He bolted upright, heart pounding, and ran barefoot down the hallway. Oliver's bedroom door was open. Inside, his son was thrashing in his bed, tangled in sheets, sobbing so hard he could barely breathe. Mommy, don't go. Please come back. David stood in the doorway, paralyzed. For a moment, he almost turned away, almost called for Kara to handle it, almost hid behind someone else's strength. But then Oliver's small hand shot out into the darkness, grasping at nothing, searching for someone who wasn't there. And David crossed the room in 2 strides and scooped his son into his arms. Oliver was shaking. His whole tiny body trembled against David's chest. It's okay, David whispered, his voice breaking. I've got you. I'm here.
Daddy.
Oliver gasped, like he couldn't believe it. I'm here, buddy. I'm right here. Oliver clung to him, fingers twisting into David's shirt. Don't leave. Please don't leave me. David's throat closed up. He held his son tighter, rocking him the way Claire used to. I'm not going anywhere, David said, and this time he meant it. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. I'm staying right here with you. Oliver sobbed into his shoulder, and David let him. He didn't try to stop the tears, or fix the pain, or offer distractions. He just held his son, and let him grieve. In the doorway, Kara stood with tears streaming down her face, one hand pressed to her heart. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to help. She just watched a father finally show up for his son. And when David looked up and met her eyes, he saw something there he hadn't seen in months. Hope. The next morning, everything was different. David came downstairs early and made pancakes. They were terrible, burnt on one side, raw in the middle, but he made them anyway. When Oliver wandered in, rubbing his eyes, David didn't retreat. He crouched down and opened his arms. Oliver paused, surprised, then ran into his father's embrace. Pancakes? David asked. Oliver's face lit up. With chocolate chips. With chocolate chips, David confirmed. Later that day, David did something he hadn't done in 10 months. He went into his office and shut down the cameras. All of them. He didn't need to watch life through screens anymore. He was ready to live it. That afternoon, Kara got a phone call. David was in the kitchen when he heard her voice crack. He found her at the sink, shoulders shaking, trying to hold herself together. Kara, he said gently. She turned, and he saw the tears on her face. My aunt, she whispered. The woman who raised me after my mom died. She's gone. David's heart broke for her. I'm so sorry, he said. And then, instead of retreating, instead of letting her handle it alone, he stepped forward. Take whatever time you need. We'll be okay. Kara blinked, shocked. But Oliver. Oliver has me, David said firmly. And you need to take care of yourself right now. When Kara tried to pack her bag that evening, Oliver saw it and panicked. You're leaving, he cried, eyes wide with fear. Kara knelt down fast. Just for a little while, sweetheart. I have to say goodbye to someone very special to me. But I'm coming back. I promise. You promise? Oliver's voice was so small. I promise, Kara said, holding him tight. David knelt beside them. And while she's gone, you've got me. All the way. Oliver looked between them, then reached for his father's hand. David held it tight. 3 weeks later, Kara came back on a Monday morning, grief still in her eyes, but a soft smile on her face. Oliver ran to her like she'd been gone for years, and she caught him, laughing and crying at the same time. That afternoon, Oliver sat at the kitchen table with crayons scattered everywhere. He worked carefully, tongue poking out in concentration. Then he held up a picture. 3 stick figures. One tall, one small, one with curly brown hair. All holding hands, all smiling. This is us, Oliver said, pointing.
Daddy. Me.
And Auntie Kara. David's throat tightened. Auntie Kara? Oliver nodded seriously. She's family now. Kara's eyes filled with tears. David looked at her. This woman who'd refused to quit, who'd seen through his anger to his pain, who'd loved his son when he'd forgotten how. Yeah, David said softly. She is. And for the first time since Claire died, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like home. Epilogue, the lesson. So that's the story of how a grieving father learned to love again. David Richardson had built walls around his heart to protect himself from more pain. But those same walls had locked out his son, the one person who needed him most. It took a stranger, a nanny named Kara, who refused to give up, to show him that grief doesn't have to turn you cold. That losing someone doesn't mean you stop loving everyone else. That the greatest gift you can give a child isn't money or toys or a perfect house. It's your presence.
Your time.
Your willingness to sit on the floor and build block towers and hold them when they cry. Cameras can show you what's happening in your house, but only love can show you what's happening in your child's heart. If this story touched you, I want you to think about something. Who in your life needs you to show up? Not with gifts or money or solutions.
Just you. Your time.
Your attention. Your love. Because the people we love don't need us to be perfect. They just need us to be present. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is put down your phone, turn off your screens, get down on the floor, and just be there. That's where love lives. That's where healing begins. That's where families are built. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the Story Room for meaningful stories that inspire and teach life lessons.